And then see if you can, from your table, crawl your hands to your knees and stand up on your knees. When you do stand up on your knees, shrug your shoulders out. Take some figure eights with your wrists. And then take your arms up over your head. Lace the fingers, flip the palms up. And take a big stretch, keeping your knees rooted to the ground as you reach up. From there, take the arms down behind your back and do the same thing there. Lace the fingers and reach the knuckles down. You might let some breath out through your mouth. And then release the arms and let them swing like this. Crisscross the arms in front of you. And then have both arms going in the same direction. And maybe you're noticing your ribs and your spine and your lower back when you're doing this. Good, and then shake the arms out. Now we're going to come back to table and take some cat-cow. So press down into the floor, around, and then release. And it doesn't matter where your inhale and exhale go. That can be specific to you. And then take your right hand as a fist and reach it out in front of you and press down into the fist. And then take your other hand and see if you can reverse the hand so you have a flipped wrist. Even if the fingers are just pointing out to the left a little bit, that could be good. And so I want you just to feel that difference and press away into the floor, away from the floor. And then press back into the floor and bend into your elbow. And then press away, so more of the load is in your left hand, and then bend into the elbow, so more of the load is in the right hand. And then we're going to switch. Now the right hand gets flipped, and the left hand is a fist a little further out in front of you. So again, we can bend the elbow and lean into the left fist, and then pull back, straighten that left arm, and lean into the right wrist. Okay, and then bring your hands back to center at your table. Let your hips swing with you to the right as you reach your right arm up for a lateral arm opening. And then switch sides. Hips can sway to the left as your left arm comes up. And so try that one more time because it can feel really nice and it feels interesting most days to see what's going on in your body in this way. And then come back to center. We're going to crawl hands to the knees one more time and stand up. Good, bring your hands together in front of you, lace your fingers, and this time reach the arms out in front of you. And then while you have your hands here, let your hips move around a little bit. You can get as exaggerated with it as you want. And then go the other direction. Because sometimes when we put arms in front or even arms in back, we tend to do a certain thing with the hips. We either sway back or we tuck. And so if we explore a little bit, we can figure out if there's a spot for our spine and our pelvis that feels a little better from day to day. So hands can now come to the back of your pelvis, And I want you now to go a little bit side to side. Noticing side waist. All right. Then hold with your right hand on your right hip. Keep both knees with the same amount of pressure down into the floor and reach the left arm up and over to the right. So it's just like a standing crescent side bend. So try to press your left knee a little more into the ground than the right knee. Come back up, switch sides. Left hand to left side of pelvis. Just helps you stay grounded and connected there as you reach over to the left. Come back up. And once again, back to table. Good, now I want you to take big circles. And let your spine and your pelvis and everything move in an organic way. Could be a combination of some cat-cow, some moments of holding it. When you feel ready from here, we're going to find our first downward dog. So curl the toes under and start to pick your hips up. And you can keep your knees nice and bent as you just press back evenly through both feet and both hands, and let your head drop and maybe shake your head out and maybe even sway side to side and explore. Then we'll drop back to the knees, and I want you to find a supported push-up position. So knees are down, and maybe even feet can be up in the air if you prefer. And we're gonna crawl the hands back towards the knees, and then go off to the left side, come into like a diagonal push-up, crawl hands back to the knees, go off to the right side, crawl back, come back to your regular push-up. Maybe take your hands a little wider than you would for your table and go ahead and take a push-up. And if that felt good, take a couple more. Okay, and then child's pose. So child's pose, you could have knees together, you could have knees wide, like as wide as your mat or as wide as your hips. You could even stay up on your knees and only keep your head down and your hips stay up. So find your comfortable child's pose. We'll stay for about a minute. After one or two more breaths, start to find yourself coming up back to table and back to downward facing dog. So curl the toes under, lift your hips back up. And you might even start to then crawl your hands to your feet. So you're standing folded over. And you could bend your knees as much as you need to. You could even take right hand to left shin and left hand to right shin. So you have a crisscross of the arms and you're kind of holding yourself in that way. Let your head shake out. See if while you're here, if you can trace your body from your feet up the back of your legs, down your spine, down the front of your body. Eventually release your hands to the floor. Keep your knees as bent as you need. Left hand can stay out in front of you, but maybe in the middle of your feet as you reach the right arm up into the air. So it's a forward fold twist. Your hips can move with you. Come back to center. Right hand moves to the floor, to the mat. Left hand comes up. Come back, and we're going to now find chair pose. So you're going to keep your knees bent, keep sitting back to an imaginary seat, and start to lift your arms up. So some of you might bring your hands to your hips, maybe arms in front of you, maybe arms up into the air. And I had you in with your feet apart, but if you prefer to have feet and knees together, you could try that as well. Really sit back so you feel that energy in the thighs and you feel the stretch in the shins and the strengthening in your ankles. And then maybe also that attention to your center. When you can't take it anymore, stand up, stand straight up and sway. And eventually in the swaying, your arms will want to move too. And you can just let your arms begin to swim and flow as you sway. And then find yourself rooted in your feet to cross your left arm over the chest, right hand to left elbow for a stretch for the shoulder, the back of the arm, the chest. Maybe let that left wrist wiggle and shake out. And then switch sides. Swing the arms and cross the right arm over. So your left hand is on your right elbow. Shake your right wrist out. And then release, sway the arms. Come to maybe the middle of your mat. We're going to take a standing balance. If you want to and you know you need like a chair or the wall for a standing balance, then you could move there as well. We're just going to go right into our eagle pose from here. Okay, so I like to start with feet about hip distance apart, and so you can find your chair pose to begin. And hands can be on hips. And so then from here, take your right thigh over the left thigh. And that might be where you pause and you just work from there, strengthening the left ankle. And keep challenging yourself to sit a little lower. If you want to add the arms, you can take the arms in front of you, elbows bent. And I always like to take left elbow under if the right leg is crossing, so opposite arm and leg. If you prefer the other way, of course, that's fine. Keep sitting lower, keep reaching the arms higher. And then release. Shake it. Okay, we're going to do the other side, so find your steady base, your chair pose with feet apart, and then you're going to stack left thigh across. Again, that could be where you work from. If you want, arms could come in front of you. Right elbow under left, eagle arms. Sink lower, lift the arms higher. what all is happening in your thoughts, your body, and then release. Shake it out. Whew. Okay, come to the top of your mat, and now we're gonna move through a slow flow. So just work some of that out. Okay, so when you're ready, make sure there's nothing behind you that you're gonna kick on your mat. We're gonna sweep the arms up and then fold forward. Once you come down to the floor, make sure you can touch the floor, even if just your fingertips, and slowly step one leg back at a time to your downward facing dog. I like to start here because it gets your structure ready and it helps you get focused for the flow. Okay, so then from there you get to come forward to plank, push-up position. If you need to drop your knees, do that, and then lower all the way down to your stomach. Unless you're pregnant, you can do a pregnant push-up. But if you're down on your stomach, then transition to your cobra, your up dog, your sphinx, your back bend of choice. Maybe lower down first and then come back to downward dog. In your down dog here, really let your head hang. Shake your head out. Maybe bend your knees a little deeper and then straighten them. And then look at your feet and walk your hands to your feet. So you're in a forward fold. You're going to come up through your chair pose. So sit down again into that imaginary seat behind you. Reach your arms forward or up. Take a breath where you blow it out through your mouth. And then stand up. Let your arms float down and shake it out as you walk to the top of your mat again. So this second one, I won't really walk through it as much. You can decide where you want to go in the vinyasa-like movements. Okay, so starting at the top of your mat, your breath can take you through. You could move breath to breath. You could move even slower than that, holding each shape for longer. And then this time, see if you can walk your hands and your feet towards one another. So you end up more at the middle of your mat, but you can step your feet as wide as the mat. And then maybe even hold your ankles. And let your head hang down, your elbows bend out to the side. And you might even sway a little bit side to side. So some of your load goes to the left and then back to the right. And eventually you might even move your hands up the legs while you're folded over until the hands are at your lower back. And then maybe the hands want to lace behind your back and reach up towards the ceiling while you drop your head down. And maybe bend your knees like you're going into a squat. And then straighten and bend the knees deeper and then straighten. Release your arms back down to the mat and then start to stand up. So when I come to stand, I bend the knees a lot and then come up on the breath out, especially if it's really humid or if you're feeling some stress. Okay. I can hear my kids outside, so I had to shut the window. Okay, so now step to the top of your mat. This we're going to step back into a lunge. So if you have blocks or containers or something that you want to have around you, you could start to place them on both sides of you for support. So then when you're ready, fold forward, hinge at the hips, bend your knees, and you could even bring those containers or blocks or boxes close to you from here so you have some support to step your left leg back. Once your left leg is back, you're going to rock a little bit in a runner's lunge. Warming up and noticing the front thigh and the left hip flexor region. Okay, if you're able to drop your left knee down, we're going to start there. So if you have a blanket you could put under the knee, or if you want to roll your mat, the side of your mat in, you could do that. And we're going to twist open to the right first, so you can keep your left hand to the block or the floor, and your right arm can open up into the air. Just take a couple of moments. And then come back to center in the lunge. Now we're going to curl the back left toes under and pick the knee up again. So we're back in that runner's lunge, and you're going to straighten out the legs as much as you can for more of that stretch through the back of the thigh. A version of your pyramid pose. So some days I have to really let the elbows bend and let my head drop down. And other days I like to keep the arms straighter and my head, my neck reaching forward. So it depends on what you need for your structure, it depends on what you need for your emotional state. One thing you could do, no matter what you're doing with your arms and your upper back, is press down into your right foot and see how that engages the back of the thigh. Okay, from here, bend back into your right knee, and we're going to step or hop the back foot a few times to come forward back to the top of your mat. Set your blocks or boxes, props to the side, and start to slowly come to stand. Okay, shake it out. We're going to stay balanced now on the left leg. Bend your right knee, and you're just going to swing the leg back and forth. So after we did some of that work there, in the lunge and the pyramid, you're just continuing to check in with hamstrings, range of motion, and where it's all coming from in your movement. Is it coming more from your center core, maybe from your back, and then release. Okay, now we're going to do the other side. So you're going to hinge at the hips, come forward, find your blocks or props, start to step now the right leg back, and we'll start with the runner's lunge. So you're going to rock back and forth. Maybe find a moment just to hold. And then we're going to drop the right knee down. So again, if you need to roll the edge of your mat in to protect your back knee or put something under it, do that. Keep your right hand to the floor or the prop, and your left arm reaches up. So you're in this lunge twist. Couple breaths. Good, come back to center with it. Release the the mat if you had it underneath your knee, and then pick that right knee back up. So from there, we're going to straighten out the legs for pyramid pose. Sometimes it means that if you're using blocks, you might need to turn them higher. I hope you all are finding things at home that you can use to support you in your practice. If you don't have props, it might just mean bending the front knee a little more than if you did have props. And again, decide if you want your neck to hang down, your elbows to bend, or if you want to work with straight arms and that elongation through the spine, including the neck. Maybe try pressing a little more through the left foot. Next breath, bend into your front knee, start to step the back right foot forward. And then take your time to come rolling back up to stand. Shake it out. And then we're going to balance on the right leg to swing the left leg back and forth. So you're going to keep the left knee bent. You're going to kick it back like you were going into a dancer's pose, and then bring it forward like you were going to grab your knee. But instead of staying static, you're going to move and notice where the movement is coming from. Okay, release, shake it all out. From here, top of your mat, we'll do one more sun salutation. So sweep the arms up as you feel comfortable, and then start to fold. I don't always add in my sun salutations the halfway lift. If you like to do that, you could always add little flourishes where you need. Okay, and then step back to down dog. I'm just coming more and more from a place of curiosity and questioning why I do the things that I do in all facets of life, right? Come down when you're ready. Move through your back bend. And back to your down dog. From there, drop to your knees and take a settle into a pose that feels like a pause. So it could be child's pose. It could be hips up, head down. Sometimes that's called polar bear pose. Could be all the way down on your stomach. Maybe let your hips sway, or if you're in child's pose, you could let your arms move off to one side and then to the other side. After the next couple breaths, begin to find your way back to table. And we'll again want support for under the knee. So put your blanket or whatever you have with you back underneath your knees. We're going to take the right foot out to the right, a side lunge, with the toes pointing out to the right. You're going to walk your hands over to the right as well. And keep like finagling the ankle and the foot till you feel like it's in a good spot for your pelvis. And you could even take the right hand to your ankle and start to open up the left side of the body. So my right elbow is lined up on the inside of the right knee, and the left arm is going to come up into the air. So this is similar to a side angle pose if we were standing up. Just take a moment while you're holding the shape to trace the structure of your body. Notice the bones of your leg, that right leg, your pelvis, the bones of your left leg, how you're angled, and then all the way up the spine, the ribs. And then bring that left arm back down to the floor. Take your hands back more to center, and then we're going to stand up in the same position. But now we're going to crawl and wiggle the right foot straight out to the side. So each of you too will have a different kind of arch for in your foot and in your ankle. So some of you might be able to keep your toes pointing forward where they were, but some of you might need to turn and angle the foot. Okay, take a moment to engage through the whole lower half of the body. So it's not all just coming from one place, but you feel evened out. We're going to open the arms and take triangle pose. So right hand down to the right shin or knee or ankle, wherever you can reach. Left arm up. Get quiet in the pose. Come back up slowly, hands to hips. Start to rebend the right knee and wiggle the right foot closer. Just take a moment to see what the difference was between those two poses in your body. Where you felt it in your side waist, your low back, your back of the thigh. I might not even talk to you until later today. Hands come back in front of you. We're going to sweep that right leg now. Keep the leg bent back into the air and just kick it back. And then bring the knee in and kick it back. So do that a couple of times. And then release. Knee down. Sway the hips. And if you're anything like me, after something like that, when I sway the hips to the right, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, feel that. I'm going to keep it there for a second. I feel that outer hip. And now we'll do the other side. Okay, so now step your left foot out to the left. Make sure your right knee is padded up. You're going to start with the toes pointing out to the left. And your left knee is bent at somewhat of a 90-degree angle. The hands are going to start to crawl to the left. And your left hand might stay on your ankle. You begin to lean into that straight left arm. The back of the elbow is kind of against the inner knee. And the right arm starts to come up. If that bothers your ankle or your wrist, you can just have the fingertips to the floor. I meant to say that on the other side too. Right arm up. And get quiet in it while you breathe with attention. Let that right arm really reach out and spiral down to the floor. And then you're going to crawl your hands back to center. Then crawl the hands toward your knee. Stand upright in this position and start to straighten the left leg. Wiggle the foot out. The toes, again, might need to angle in a certain way. Then the arms will reach out to the side. Make sure that you have both sides of the lower half of the body feeling steady, and then start to find your triangle pose from here. So left hand down the leg, right arm up. Find a spot where your neck feels strong. And just notice how you have to work here, where you feel it. Good, and then we can start to come up. Again, bend back into your left knee, and so that your left foot feels comfortable and you're feeling a little more neutral. Just notice. Hands on hips, maybe hands on ribs. And then we're going to bring the hands down to the floor in front of you like you would for table, but then kick that left leg back behind you, bend the knee like it's going to tap your left elbow, and then kick the leg back. Do that a few times. And then release. And when you're back in table, sway the hips. Maybe linger with the hips to the left for a moment. Okay, so now back from table pose, have your props within reach. We're going to step the right foot back to the right, but this time we're going to crawl the foot forward onto your mat. Once the foot is up on the mat, keep your hands on the inside of the leg. Okay, and then we're going to curl the back left toes under, lift the back left knee up. So if you need your props to help you get up a little higher, you can do that. And then we're going to angle that left foot down to the mat, just like warrior one. So left toes are pointing out to the left a little bit, right toes are pointing forward, and then see if you can press away from the floor to stand upright in that position. Shrug your shoulders out, and then take your hands behind you so the fingertips are pointing down, and your thumb might be kind of holding your hip bone on both sides. Then you're going to bend into the front knee and straighten, and bend and straighten. And when you bend, press into the left foot as much as you're bending and pressing into the front leg. And then see if you can hold it. And then when you hold it, see if you can lean forward and step the back foot forward and come up to balance for one moment. If that's out of your practice, don't worry about it. Just stay where you're at in the warrior one. From here, you'll come back to that warrior one. And then sweep the arms up. Good. Take a deep breath to your own capacity. And then we're going to release down to the floor. Drop your back knee down. And from here, I'm going to suggest going right into pigeon, your half pigeon. If you would prefer to stay in a lizard lunge, then you could stay with maybe elbows on your prop. Stay right here. If you want to go into your pigeon pose, you're going to walk the right foot across the mat, drop the right knee out to the right, and keep sinking down into your hips a bit more. Left leg is straight back behind you. Any amount of props can be used in either pose. Good. Just see where you're at with it today. And if you try one version and it doesn't work, or it doesn't feel good, just switch back to the first version. And I've said this before on these Zoom and online classes, but I'm giving a lot of options. I already do when I teach, but when you're in a group with the class, it's much easier to see and feel and sense, you know, what versions of poses might be best for the group. But not being able to do that, I'm trying to throw out a few different options. So feel free to tune me out if you need to. If you just know what you're doing, you just want to be in that pose. But if you're in pigeon, for example, you could be just like the pyramid pose, how I was explaining. Some days you have to have the bent elbows and the head down. That could be where you're at in your pigeon. And other days you might need to have straight arms and more of a back bend. Give yourself 2 more breaths. If you're in the lizard lunge, you're going to find your way back to table slowly. If you're in the pigeon, curl the left toes under. And once you've found that, use your arms against the floor to help you lift up. Kind of like you're moving towards plank, but drop the right knee down right away. And then you're back to your table and you can swing the hips out. And if down dog will feel good, you can try that too and just stretch it out. Maybe rock back and forth from plank to down dog. Drop your hips to one side and then to the other side. But then come back to your hands and knees, and we'll start from there to go back to the other side. Starting from table, left foot out to the left. And that just helps you work your way into a lunge that comes from a more grounded place. So you wiggle that left foot up onto your mat. And keep your hands on the inside of the leg to begin. You might have props with you. And we're going to curl the back right toes under, start to pick the knee up, and then spin that heel down to the mat like warrior 1. So your right toes are a little bit to the right, left toes are facing forward. See if you can come upright within that position and bring your hands to your hips. Maybe again with the thumbs against the hip bones and the fingertips pointing down. And you're going to bend and straighten. Okay, then hold. Some of you might stay right here. If you want to challenge yourself to a warrior 3 from here, you're going to lean forward. Hop the back foot in, and then pick the right leg up. Lunge back to your warrior 1. Take the arms up. Take any expression of the arms that you'd like. And then we're going to come back down to the props, to the floor. Start to bring your right knee back down. And here's where we're going to either stay in your lizard lunge, like this, or pigeon. Wiggle that left foot, heel toe across to the right so that your left knee can fall down to the left. And then you have the right leg extending back behind you. Give yourself time to decide which pose you would like to be in and how much props you need. And good, and then we're just going to be here for a little bit. So again, you might be with straight arms, more of a back bend in your pigeon. You might be more of a surrender, head down. Same actually for the lizard lunge too. Stay with your breath. Stay with the sensations in your body. If it's painful, then move out of the shape. But if it's teaching you about resilience, then try to see where that line is. Okay, last couple breaths. You might even begin very gentle transitioning movements to make your way back to table pose. So if you're in the pigeon pose, right toes curl under, press evenly into your hands to come up like you're coming into a push-up, but then drop that left knee down right away and sway the hips. Maybe some true cat-cows here. And now it's time to come to our seat. Okay. Come to your seat and take your legs wide. Oh, a seated wide leg, wide angle position. And you could put some blankets underneath you. Okay. So first anchor through your heels with your feet flexed, if you're able to do that. Hands in front of you, fingertips to the floor. Press firm into your heels and down into your fingertips. So you feel that energy through the back of the legs, and you feel it also along the spine and at your center. Then let the feet and legs relax, but without letting them flop. So they relax just enough that they're not going limp inward, but just in a neutral, more neutral position. From there, take your right arm up, reach it up, and then back down. Left arm up, and back down. Right arm out to the right, and down. Left arm out to the left, and down. Let's do that one more time. Right arm up, and down. Left arm up, and down. Right arm out to the right, and back to center. Left arm out, and back to center. Okay, so now crawl your hands a little more forward. Left hand is going to be reaching out in front of you, And right arm is going to reach up, and you're going to open windmill out. And then come back forward. Right hand is down, left arm lifts up, and windmill out. And come back to center. If you really liked how that felt, you can go one more time. If that was enough, then just stay at center for a moment. Okay. And then crawl the hands back in closer to your hips. Shrug the shoulders. Maybe even take your hands behind the head or the back of the neck. Let the elbows kind of come in towards your face or your ears. Hold there for a moment so you get the back of the arms. And then release. Okay, lay down on your back. If you're pregnant or have anything else that's causing you not to lie down flat, hopefully you might have some things that you could prop up behind you, a bolster or something, so you're not flat to your back. If you're able to come all the way down, then just start with your feet to the mat, knees bent. Arms down next to you. And just like we did at the beginning in table, get still, get quiet. Sometimes we get to these positions and we're used to starting to move right away or go right into something from table or from this position on our back. And so just take a moment. Let your shoulders drop to the floor. Notice your ankles, your feet, where your knees are in space, if they're kind of hanging out to the side or if they're starting to cave in. Let the back of your head rock from side to side. Take your right arm up into the air and really reach the arm up away from you so you feel the shoulder blade lift up. And then from that place, reach the arm back behind you, straight back, until the shoulder blade drops down and the back of your hand is resting to the floor. Good, then take your left leg up into the air. And we're going to do a similar thing there. We're going to slowly lower the left leg straight down and out to the floor. And so your right knee is still bent. Your left arm is just hanging out next to you. But now I want you to see if you can keep your lower back connected to the mat, but reach the left foot forward and out and reach the right hand back behind you. Good, release that. Let your right arm now start to swim out to the right. So more in a line from the shoulder. Your right arm is out to the right. And you're going to pick the right foot up off the mat, left hand to right knee for your twist. So you're going to use the left hand gently to guide the right knee across your body to the left. And each of you will have a different spot where you reside in this position. And some of you might linger between action in the position where you want to feel that deeper stretch and then surrendering to the position. Welcome the deeper inhales and exhales that might help you let go